If the presidential election were held today, according to brand new state-by-state polling of Trump's job approval, he could lose the election by 300 electoral votes. That's a calculation from New York Magazine, extrapolating from the latest data of the online polling group Civics.
Get the fuck out of here.
419 electoral votes to the Democrat, still to be determined. 119 electoral votes to the Republican, Donald Trump.
The lash is going to come off.
Look out, we got a lash. We got a lash off.
Let's get the fuck out of here.
It is interesting that the Republican senators or congressmen that have come out forcefully against Trump, they seem to be losing.
Being forced into
again.
retirement.
Yeah.
And this divide surprised me because Sanford has never lost, had
his first loss in 9 campaigns in 24 years. Not to interrupt you.
No, but his criticisms of Trump weren't even that fiery. They were on policy and things he disagreed on, and it still took him down.
I have to disagree with the president on this.
If he would just shut up.
The president's partially to blame for demons that have been unleashed.
You describe the president as misleading, even unprepared for the office of president.
The guy said something stupid.
Learned that the president isn't getting full-throated support from members of his own party, even when asked about whether or not they will back Trump in a re-election bid. Roughly 24 Republican senators and members of Congress told CNN they're not ready to back their party's standard bearer. This is unusual. Cornyn, Lamar Alexander, Thune, Sanford. To
see someone like Mark Sanford, who is literally an icon to my husband and someone that has really been at the forefront of so many issues within the Republican Party for so long, get taken out for just mild criticism of President Trump.
That's what I think a lot of people. People don't have a problem with the way with voicing frustration with the way he does it. A lot of
condescending or what? No, I don't think that that's good because I don't think that's the way we ought to handle public discourse. But the way in which he has gone about it, I think, has gone to the point of dangerous. When you go out there and say a former president was, in essence, a co-conspirator in 9/11, you get in a contest, if you will, with the Pope. I could go down a litany of different things.
So my sense is this field is going to narrow. I don't think that Trump is going to maintain the lead that he has right now. I think it's going to come down to a 3-way jump ball between Trump, Cruz, and then the question for me, is it Rubio or Bush? But one of those 3 is going to be.
I just want to talk about even Donald Trump is going to have a hard time competing with Jeb and his brother George W. when he shows up in town.
Donald Trump barreled into South Carolina, repeatedly labeled Ted Cruz a liar, called Pope Francis disgraceful, and walked away the undisputed frontrunner for the Republican nomination.
We know Trump is the big winner. It's interesting who's going to wind up in second place.
Right, and let's focus on the winner for just a second. If you look at the map, the dark red is Donald Trump. He's winning along the coast, military bases. He's winning more south along the coast, retirees, more moderate Republicans. He's winning across the state, and he's winning up here in the evangelical heartland of South Carolina. Essentially, Donald Trump is winning everywhere.
South Carolina Congressman Mark Sanford, who has said he will vote for Trump, but feels conflicted about the whole thing.
He would just shut up, quit attacking and responding to everybody that says anything even personally negative toward him. And I think the issue ultimately is not about Donald Trump's tax returns. It's about us as Americans being able to look at whether a Republican or a Democratic nominee as to what they have or haven't done in the way of finances. It's interesting, when you apply for a mortgage, the banker doesn't take your word for it. They actually want to look at your tax returns. They tell a lot that other things don't.
Mark Sanford of South Carolina told me just a couple seconds ago that he said the president simply did not say how he would pay for these things. He said that was a, quote, major deficiency.
During last month's health care fight, Congressman, things got pretty heated between you and President Trump. In fact, it's been reported that the president threatened to back a primary challenger against you. Tell us what happened.
He sent as his emissary, Mick Mulvaney, who I've known a long time. He's from our state, and he's now the OMB director, and said, he said the president hopes you vote against this because he wants to run somebody against you if you do.
What does it say about his clout with Republicans like you that he threatened to run a primary challenger against you, and you still said, I'm going to oppose this bill that you want me to support. You're not scared of him, are you?
Well, no, it's not that. It doesn't make anybody's day when the President of the United States says, I want to take you out. But what I would say is I don't work for him. I work for about 750,000 people.
I just have to ask before we go, there's a website called beinglibertarian.com that's hoping that you are going to run against President Trump in 2020. You see the website up on the screen there. What do you think?
This is news to me, so you're making news. I've never heard of the website, know anything about it.
In an extensive profile in Politico magazine, Sanford says he believes Trump isn't trustworthy and has fanned the flames of intolerance.
The former South Carolina governor turned congressman did lose his primary last night to State Senator Katie Arrington.
And I'm running for Congress to get things done, not to go on CNN to bash President Trump.
In the last 2 years, Sanford demanded the president release his tax returns, called him untrustworthy, and said he's fanned the flames of intolerance.
It may have cost me an election in this case, but I stand by every one of those decisions.
The president tweeting just hours before the polls closed that Sanford has been very unhelpful and is better off in Argentina.
And he's going to soon be a former United States congressman. He joins us right now, Mark Sanford. What do you think would have happened had the president never tweeted that you weren't his guy?
But I think it begs the larger, dynamic that played out in this race, which is simply, are you for Trump or not? And I think that if you look at my voting record, about 90% of the time I voted with the president on a handful of issues.
Look at my voting record, about 90% of the time I voted with the president.
Please welcome live from South Carolina, former governor and congressman Mark Sanford. Hey, what is this all about? Because you recently announced that you're considering challenging the guy. And what are you waiting for? Are you in or are you out?
Neither. What I've said is I'll give it 30 days and see whether, energy and people and resources come my direction as I explore this over the next 30 days.
So, Joy Behar here, sir, if you do jump into this race, you know that Trump is going to be relentless in his attacks against you and your extramarital affair. We all know about that.
Here. I mean, she's obviously his priority.
The
so it's not
developed
surprising.
over the thing about it is, why does it have to travel for a girl, a woman? Most of these politicians, the woman comes to you. Spitzer, Clinton, they come to you when you're a politician. Schlepping to Buenos Aires. Why? That Trump is going to be relentless in his attacks against you and your extramarital affair. How do you plan to handle that?
As best I can.
But all due respect, sir, you're going to have to go down to the mud with this guy. Are you ready to do that? I mean, he plays really dirty.
Joy, have her
I was
song.
singing.
Yes.
Here's the story.
Yes.
Of a guy named Sanford.
No, here's the story of a cheating politician.
I have to say, get over your damn crisis and stop cheating on your wife and make a decision between your wife and this other woman. Don't hang on to both for a year. You've got 4 sons looking at you as a disgusting poor example. This is hideous. Make a choice. Make a choice. Be a big boy.
He did make a choice.
Be a big boy.
He went down to Argentina. We think we don't know when Maria's going to surface.
Are you ready to do that? I mean, he plays really dirty.
Did you all see Mark Sanford's new ad? Typical career politician, trying to have it both ways. He talks about working with President Trump on the border wall. He was one of only 5 Republicans who refused to support our president and voted against Trump's border wall. We've all seen Mark on TV attacking our president. Who does he think he's fooling? Mark Sanford, saying one thing and doing another.
Why should we take this idea seriously from you?
Because, A, the conversation you were just having on the economy, I think very much ties into this. B, I think we've lost our roots as Republicans, and there needs to be a conversation about what it means to be a Republican. And a lot of folks that you talk to in the polls, the same people that say 86% approve, you look at the numbers, and for instance, the latest poll in New Hampshire, roughly half of those folks said he needs to be challenged because we need to have that conversation within the Republican Party.
In South Carolina's version of One Life to Live, Governor Mark Sanford's daily drama is wearing thin. One admitted affair, a half-dozen other indiscretions, repeated apologies, and tortured explanations. Now, 20 state lawmakers and at least 7 state newspapers say enough and want him gone as governor.
He has asked his wife for permission to share a bed with another woman. And we, Republicans, are supposed to be the party of family values. We have to expect more from our leaders than that.
Later today, state investigators may reveal whether Sanford ever illegally used taxpayer money to squire Maria Chapur around New York and Buenos Aires.
a fair bit of business investment these days as to what day are we going to get, this day or that day in the White House. And, business, to make investment, needs stability.
You probably aren't the best vehicle for this, but you're doing it. Is there a better candidate out there?
I'm sure there is. I'm sure there are a bunch of them. But, this conversation began the day after my primary loss last June. A friend called and said, God just cleared your calendar for a reason. I know what it is. You need to primary the president. I'm like, are you completely
That was literally the first. That was the first response after losing because of Trump. Trump basically cost you your re-election.
But I said, that's preposterous. That's crazy. But long story short, there's been a drumbeat over the last year of people who I admire, who are not crazy, who are very thoughtful, saying we need to have this conversation.